All right, Google. Don't let us down this time.
Echo.
Oh, right.
Echo.
Echo. Echo. Oh, I forgot. I've got a.
John cut here.
Hey, at least we didn't have that horrible echo thing.
Yet.
Yeah. Let me see. Hold on, I have a playlist ready. I have the perfect song to lead you in with. Because we did have the Brett Clark Born in Indiana soundtrack going one time. So
I was born in Michigan, so I don't know how well that would work.
Just go with it. I know.
All right, I will go with
It's just technicality. We're going to introduce you in. You're in Indiana, so let's go. All right. Oh darn it, we're taping right now. Everybody will know that we're lying. Gosh darn it. Okay, here we go. John, edit. Wait, hold on. Is my wife still milling around over there? Is it bad? Is it bad that my wife's over there and every time I go to the Q conference, I'm like I roomed last time with SARS and who else was with us?
He's gonna be thrilled that we're calling her that on.
I'm rooming with the lovely young ladies of Q. Okay, here we go. John, edit. Oh, here comes the dog now.
Oh my gosh! For crying out loud, pull it together, Samuelson.
John, edit here. Hello and welcome to Techlandia. How are you doing today? It's just me and my dog, and that's proper grammar. We're over in Portland, Oregon. My name's John Samuelson. February stinks, by the way. It really stinks. I'm going to go kick it down to the two co-hostess with the mostesses. And the first one, we'll go ladies first, administrators, the beauty of the show.
Oh, boy.
Kick it down to the Golden State and the lovely golden voice
Gender roles.
Hey, guys. Amy Fadegi here. I'm an elementary principal in Petaluma, California.
Very good. And right across town, the other eye candy of Techlandia, the handsome, dashing, suave, sophisticated man about town, and his name is?
You forgot Jilted.
Oh, he's jilted too. I know I jilted him today.
John
I'm sorry.
stood me up today. My name's Carl Lindgren Stryker. I am a 9th and 10th grade world history teacher in the Bay Area, about half hour south of San Francisco.
Okay. And we have our special guest tonight, a person that has waited to be on Techlandia. How long have you been waiting, George, to be on Techlandia? When have we been talking about this? Since summer last year?
Yeah, at least like 6 months.
It's too bad we took a 6-month hiatus. All right, there it is. That was my Indiana. Over in South Bend, Indiana, we have the one, the only, the intelligent, dashing, charming man about town, and his name is?
George Phillip. I teach 5th and 6th grade global studies.
Very nice. All right, and George is here. Been talking on the Voxer a lot, George, haven't we?
We have, yes. I love that app.
That app is good. Now, I saw one the other day. Carl, tell me if I'm wrong on this. If there's a walkie-talkie app that kind of comes across my little, whatever feed that comes into technology stuff.
I already agree with this statement.
Vojer. There's a new app called Voger, and it does the exact same thing as Voxer. Oh, no, I swear. How do they do that? Can they get away with that?
Is that like Vanilla Ice when he changed the song lyrics just a little bit?
That's right. I mean, is it just that one little letter, that J, and then it's okay? I don't know. But I thought that was really funny. And then you have to pay for it anyway. So why am I going to buy it?
I wore a Voxer shirt yesterday, so if Vodger does become the new thing, that'll be really easy. I can just Sharpie it out.
Right, that's good. I mean, maybe they got a hold of some T-shirts and they're trying to cut their budget or whatever. Hey, Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit real quick before we get to George? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did this weekend at Q Rockstar?
Oh my gosh!
Can you sum it up?
Yeah, I had my first Q Rockstar experience, which when I do something, I just kind of go a little bit all out. So I was the event host this weekend, which was so fun. We had about 100 educators just crawling Pengrove Elementary campus. And oh my gosh, Rockstar, I'm in love with that. The format is so awesome. It's a late start and a early finish and a 2-hour lunch. And so you just go to 2 sessions each day, and they're both 2 hours. So we did this awesome kickoff on Friday night at this it's a Mentor Me center that's in downtown Petaluma. and a super fun kickoff at a great location, and then we were at Pengrove for the next 2 days. And I just was like, at my school, which I love and breathe and live every day, and I'm like, oh, there's John Crippo, oh, there's Jennifer Klosko, oh, just like all these amazing people that I love and educators that I'm friends with on Twitter that came from, we had people from like Red Bluff down to Monterey, and it was so amazing. So I'm on a crazy high right now.
That's cool. That sounds fun. I'm surprised that Carl Lingenstreicher wasn't there. That sounds right up his alley. Carl, why did you travel that weekend?
I don't know, John. I had other commitments,
Okay, very good. Fair. You know what? Fair enough.
Lovers weekend. I'm not taking it offensively.
By the way, I have a line on a new power. I mean, I know that Carl Lingenstreicher is like the Brangelina of EdTech, but this weekend I met another couple, the Canadian-American couple going on, and they might rival you a little bit here. I don't know what we'll have to see what it is, but I won't bust them out live on the air to our 6 listeners, but I'm going to tell you to stay.
I heard stories of trans-border things from various people.
There's some
I heard things
Canadian love going on in Oregon. Mm-hmm. So anyway, all right. Well, you know what, Fadej?
What?
Was Ramsey Musalem there?
Well, that's a funny story because Ramsey lives in Petaluma, and we did a little DMing throughout the week, but he was a family man this weekend. Totally understand. He really wanted to come hang out, but they had a big baby shower on Saturday, and then he was traveling on Sunday. So I'm gonna give him credit.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to see if he was there because it would have led in perfectly for what George is about to talk about. But I want to give him credit for staying at home with his family.
That's right.
Good for him. Good for
him.
His
wife's about to have twins,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. When those kids are born, they'll already be twice as smart as I am. Which isn't hard, by the way. All right. So, George, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you want to talk about? And I think Ramsey was one of the first things you wanted to talk about. Ramsey is go ahead and just kick it off. I've only met Ramsey a couple times, but I've seen him keynote, and he's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, he is. Ramsey came up with this idea for his AP chemistry class. It's called Explore, Flip, Apply. And when I was looking into like flipping my classroom, I looked at Aaron and John's stuff, and then I also found Ramsey's as well. And I really liked how it all started with inquiry process. Instead of giving the kids a video to go home and watch and then come and do the lab work and things of that nature, he started off with some kind of guided inquiry. Now he's a chemistry teacher and he can blow stuff up. As a social studies teacher, I can't really do that. I might get fired from my school. But I took away a lot of his ideas about how to start that in guided inquiry, and apparently I got good enough that we actually presented together at FlipCon in 2013.
Oh, nice. Where was that at?
That was in Stillwater, Minnesota.
Not even Stillwater, Oklahoma. Stillwater, Minnesota, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're talking Carl's language right there.
I am.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. So how did you guys get together to decide to present together?
We were kind of tweeting back and forth, and I was in the midst of I'd already presented at a couple regional conferences about it, and I was like, hey, maybe Ramsey would want to present with me at FlipCon, not knowing that he was the keynote speaker there.
Oh.
Yeah. He's a big time.
He is. And so he and I we got together and we put together a proposal and stuff. He's like, I'll be your wingman. You can lead the show. I'll just fill in when I need to, which was really cool. And so at first they weren't going to give it to us, and then Ramsey's like, I'm game. I'll just sit back and you lead the show. And so we were able to both present after his keynote session.
Oh, that's awesome, man. You know what? That's really, the more I'm hearing about Ramsey already, the more I'm just like, what a nice guy. He stays at home with his family, has his priorities in order, and then he's keynoting, but he's not like uptown Saturday nighting you. He's like, yeah, let's present together. That sounds cool.
Yeah, he's a really great guy, really nice guy, and anytime that you reach out to him, he usually gets back to you pretty quickly as well. So I mean, he's just a caring, sharing individual.
I would say this to Ramsey's face, but I mean, to me, I just love that he's like such a dorky, passionate, just like amazing. I don't know. I mean, you never would feel like you're in the presence of someone so great and powerful. I don't know if I'm sure that's your experience, George, but when he first moved to Petaluma, a bunch of teachers and administrators, we were sitting at Tap's brewery having a beer and some chicken wings, and we tweeted him, and he totally came down and hung out with us for a couple hours, and he's looking around like, I'm the only guy here, like, and just such an awesome, down-to-earth guy.
Yeah, he is. And did he bring his yellow notepad with him? Because he's always scribbling stuff on those.
No, he didn't, but that's because we were eating chicken wings, so there's a lot of sauce going everywhere.
Yeah, you don't want to get buffalo sauce on the yellow notebook, because then that's not good. The grease kind of gets through the pages and things like that.
Right.
So the first part of Ramsey's thing is, using guided inquiry to spark students into learning, activate their prior knowledge. And then, his flip part of it is, I really like it because if you need to, you make a video. You don't necessarily need to make a video for it, whereas like a traditional flipped classroom, it's driven through video lecture. And it's always to address misconceptions that happen in class. So, if kids are struggling with a concept and, you're not able to get to it in class, before they leave, I could be like, hey, you'll have a video over this concept. And then, if they do get it, though, you go right into the apply phase. And with my class, I try to look at real-world examples for them to do because I teach a global studies program. So it's not just a world history class with where you start with the Mesopotamians and people going over the land bridge and go all the way up to China or whatever. We do look a lot at current issues that affect our kids. Recently, we did a thing about looking at a coffee rust project. In Latin America, there's coffee rust. So about 15 years, they think that all coffee is going to be gone. Done. Bananas too, by the way.
Oh wow.
So, that gives the kids an authentic experience of trying to figure out, all right, what is this thing that's plaguing all the coffee? And it's funny because all the kids are like, oh my God, my parents love coffee. I'm like, well, they better stock up now. And so, it's just an interesting way of getting the kids to look outside of themselves and kind of give them more of a global perspective. That's what I like about the apply phase in the class that I teach.
That's cool. All right, so I know Carl's going to add in something because Carl, now you got the middle school. So Carl, how did you try and do the same things at the high school level in your classroom?
Well, I want to back up for a second. Okay. George, you talked a little bit about, because I think so I'm with you and Amy. At various points, I've had discussions about the EduPantheon and who are like the core people. We're like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the smartest people I've been around, and Ramsey's absolutely one of the smartest, most intelligent, thoughtful guys that I've ever been around. So George, I want to back up to that explore phase though, because I think that's what makes his way of teaching chemistry really different. Because hey, here's some chemicals, do this and this, and now explain why that happens. So you're explaining a phenomenon that's happening very clearly in front of you. That's a little bit more harder to do tangibly in history class. I'm just wondering if you could explain what you do to get kids initially engaged in an idea. How do you create that desire to fill in knowledge gaps in a way that you can't in history because you don't have chemicals, as you said, to blow stuff up?
Good question. A lot of it has to deal with images, and so like when we talk about geography of an area, I'll go online and find some greater common images of those areas, and just I have whiteboard paint on my desk, so I was fortunate enough that my school bought me that. But just kind of throwing up images and say like, what do you see here? What don't you see here? And just to kind of get them to visualize what they're seeing and thinking about. Sometimes it's movie clips, sometimes it's clips from the videos that the book gives us. But it's more about stopping those clips before they go into an answer and be like, what do you think is going to happen next? To try to get them engaged. I'm lucky that I teach at a pretty high academic institution. So that I don't really have students that aren't motivated to learn, but I do have a few. Just as you would anywhere. Especially if the topic's not interesting to them. So I try to, even pull in. If the kids are interested in war, I try to pull in a primary source about fighting in the area. But don't have the kids read the full primary source. Have them read just a piece of it, and try to have them engage in thinking like what would happen next, or what what do you think these two people were thinking about at the time? What might have been happening in this area that would have caused them to feel and think this way?
Do you know that War and Peace probably wouldn't have been as popular if it had gone by its original title, War, What Is It Good For? That's a little Seinfeld for you right there. All right, so, sorry. You know what? Carl, you got to get on this. Okay, there we go. All right. So anyway, Fadej, feel free to jump in on the sound effects too. Come on. We did a podcast last night with Scott Pedley. They were like, we were just sound effecting all over the place, and then Mr. McNology showed up. Mr. McNology's in Portland right now. Did you see him, Carl, while you were here? Mr. Mac?
Wait. He's in Portland?
Yeah, he's in Portland right now. Future ready, baby.
Shut up.
Oh, he is. I'm telling you.
Wow. I don't know. That might have been too much awesome if he had been there as well.
I know.
I need to practice with the sound because right now it just says that the moderator has the power to eject me from the call, so I'm a little nervous.
Does it really? I don't even know how to use that power, so don't worry about it at all. You will never be in jeopardy ever. The only person who ever got ejected was Kurt Rees.
Oh, well, I mean, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, because he's a troublemaker. You know how that goes. I think it's interesting to go through, and, I mean, Carl has some good projects that he does with his class. I know he can talk about one of them. Talk about some of the stuff you do in your classroom too, Carl, like that kind of goes along with what George is talking about. You can't talk about it?
No, I was waiting for you to finish your question.
Okay.
I mean, I think the aspect of, so I'll back up for a second. I'm wary of. I've tried to really guard the time that I have for myself to pretend that I have a life. And the inquiry cycles that Ramsey sets up, those are, for me, in a history class, those take a lot of time. I would imagine if we asked Ramsey, he would say that that's something that he put together over a span of years. And George, I don't know if you can corroborate that or not. But for me, the important thing that George is emphasizing is inquiry. I think that kids are used to a history class where you go from point A to point B and it's linear and there's a right answer and this happened because of this. And I think that just getting kids to a place where history class isn't about right answers, it's about ways of thinking and it's about why you believe something to be the case. That, to me, is a big mental shift that I love watching my kids do. But it's such, I think, an important skill that extends beyond the history classroom to just get kids to think, stop, think, why do I think this, and then try to explain it and have their classmates pick at their reasoning a little bit. But getting it more about analyzing a situation and less about just explaining what happened after this, I think is a big conceptual leap for kids, but a really, really crucial one for a history classroom.
I think that's right, and I think that's the way, I'm old, so I think that's the way. When I love history and I love social studies, but it was more about memorizing facts, for the people in the 70s. And I loved my high school world history teacher, but a lot of it was just we're lecturing. Here you go. Here's the notes, and I don't think we did analyze a lot. But I liked the class a lot. So yeah, I think if you can get kids to think about it differently and then actually discuss things, that's pretty cool instead of just regurgitating facts. And I don't know, that's a cool way to go about it, I think, for sure.
George, I'm curious if I can follow up. Since you've made this change to a more inquiry-based, get kids curious, have them figure out what they know, and then come back and hit them with a tweak on a situation to apply their knowledge. What have you noticed about kids in your class? Have you seen changes around attitude, changes around engagement, changes around achievement, however we want to define that?
Yeah, I've seen changes in kind of engagement. Before I was one of those teachers where you assign read this lesson. Here's 3 reading check questions. When you come back in the next day, we'll go over them. And then part of my curriculum is note taking. So we would take what we read and the questions that we discussed, and then we would make notes out of it. And then the last 10 minutes of the class period was always me. And so I was looking to change that because not every kid was engaged. The kids that really want to play school in my classroom. You know, the ones that would rather memorize information for a test and test really well, they struggle with the inquiry cycle quite a bit because it's not an answer that you find on page 32 of the textbook. You know, it's going out and looking and analyzing different sources and information and coming up with your own answer. You know, one of the other things I had in the document was Sugatra Mitra's hole in the wall project, and you know that leads to that as well, is that he started putting out computers in India to these students, if you don't know about it, that didn't speak English, that had no computer skills whatsoever, and they were able to teach themselves what they needed to know. And he's got this idea, if you've ever seen his TED Talk, School in the Cloud, you know, where the facilitator of the classroom just kind of asks very general open questions, and the kids go and they research and they look for information, and then they present it in some way, shape, or form. You know, whether that be through a keynote or my kids love iMovies. We have a set of iPad cards that we use, so you know they like to do that stuff. Or some of them still do the standard poster board, even though I'm trying to get rid of that in my room. And you know, it's also looking into things like that. You know, it's not going to be easy at first. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and each year, you know, I make adjustments to it. Whereas, you know, some of my cohorts still teach the same thing that they did 7 years ago when I got there. So it's always constantly changing. It's constantly trying to find new ways to engage students, analyzing and understanding, you know, what your students are like. At the beginning of the year, I do like a little quick quiz with my kids to find out if they're auditory, kinesthetic, or visual learners. And then, you know, that's how I try to design my classes to fit more around, you know, those types of things. If they need to be up and moving, then, you know, we maybe do more simulations in the explore phase and the apply phase types of situations. If they're more audio and visual, then, you know, there might be the vodcast that they do would have, you know, me speaking about different different images that we talked about and things of that nature, so they get both that learning. Although the new studies out there say that there's no such thing as learning styles, but it's still kind of nice to have the kids understand, you know, what mode is best for them.
What's the quiz you give them? I'm sorry, just real quick. What kind of quiz do you give them?
It's like a 12-question quiz. My resource teacher has it. I don't even remember exactly what it's called, but it's just a 12-question quiz or something like that. And they just go through it really quickly, put down like 1, 2, or 3, and then they add them all up, and it, you know, says that, you know, you're audio and visual, or you're visual and kinesthetic, or all kinesthetic, or so this year my 5th graders are very diverse, and there's a lot of different ones. My 6th graders are more audio and visual, so you know that my class looks different that way, and I'm okay with that.
Go ahead, Carl. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No worries. You had a more immediate follow-up. Amy, I'm curious. Have you seen more of a push for inquiry-based learning at the elementary level, or is it more kind of, hey, we got to worry about the Common Core, and if the Common Core wants inquiry, then we'll do that?
I've definitely seen more of a push towards inquiry, and it's interesting. So, George, my school's an elementary, but it goes up to 6th grade. So I have 5th and 6th graders at my school, but I definitely see tons more inquiry, which is awesome. We still have a ways that we can go on that. And so anyway, but I would say that like this week I found myself saying, another elementary teacher was saying, and we're always preparing for SBAC and this, that, and the other, and I'm like, oh, because I'm not really the principal that's like shoving those types of things down people's, you know, whatever you want to say. So
if I could control sound effects, I would have given you some applause right there.
Okay, thank you. I was like, oh gosh, smarter balance. Someone said like we've been doing so much practice for it, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't even remember what the website link is for that. I better figure that out. Failure. But anyway, I would say we definitely are seeing a lot more, but it's definitely an area where I'd love to keep increasing and get teachers seeing each other. You know, expose their students to that. I remember like all my history and social studies and global studies and all of that. To me, in my mind, it's like dates and events, and that's a bummer. So I'm excited that it's going to be really different for kids that are in your class, George, and yours too, Carl.
Thank you. Well, I even tell my kids, I'm like, you know, I can tell you what happened in 1492 doesn't mean I understand it.
Right.
You know, just because I know a date because it's what I had to put on a test doesn't mean I understand it. I want you guys to go out there and find real-world examples and find things that make meaning for you, and write about those. If we're doing papers or essays, make it more personalized for them. I know Carl's a big proponent of personalized learning and things of that nature as well. But it's for my kids that I can tell the kids that just want to memorize everything because they never put in the personal experiences. And I say it's not about that. It's
Right.
about making the connection. It's about taking that and taking it longer. I want you to be able to take what I teach you in 5th and 6th grade and apply it, when you're in high school and college and when you're in the real world, because that's ultimately, what we're trying to do as teachers.
It'll be interesting to see if because I imagine that it's kind of hard for both of your students, Carl and George, to, do you ever see them just having a hard time, like you said, with the inquiry process in itself? It'll be interesting to see if that changes over time, because I think if we do a great job at the elementary, then we're going to see students that are more successful at that inquiry model, because by the time they get to you guys, if we've been doing the same thing that we've been doing forever, they're not even, it's like we've just trained them how to do school so bad by then.
Yeah, they're definitely kids who, when they will start to talk and do and produce things, I'll be like, "Who was your history teacher?" And there are a few names that are always like, "Okay, that makes sense."
Right.
Because there are a few folks who are, really trying to reconceptualize a history classroom, and you can, those kids are ready to do that work. But I think a lot of kids, when you say it's not, a test of memorization, I think a lot of kids are like that. Even kids who are good at memorizing, a lot of times, if you listen to them and hear out their concerns, they're willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, I know.
George, I'm curious. Oh, sorry, somebody was saying something.
I was going to say, with the new C3 framework that the Social Studies Committee has put out to go on top of Common Core, a part of it is the inquiry arc. I don't think they do a very good job of it in there, in my personal opinion. But I think whatever we can do with more inquiry will be better.
Yeah. So, Amy and John and I, and you haven't mentioned it, but I assume you would agree, we've all kind of talked about this transition of history as this domain of memorized. Oh, yeah, you mentioned it as well, is this domain of memorized facts into this kind of more inquiry-based thing. I'm curious, where do you see history going? Where in 5 years, obviously we'll still be talking about inquiry, we'll still be talking about personalization, but what is that history classroom, a really progressive history classroom, do you think it'll look like in 5 years or in 10 years or in 20 years?
I think it will look nothing like your history classroom. I don't think anybody will be talking about dates. I think it'll be more along the lines of Sugatra Mitra's very open-ended questions. You let the kids pick out their groups who they want to work with. Those 21st century skills, if you want to throw a buzzword out there. I know you guys love buzzwords on the show. And, just kind of having the kids take ownership of their learning, and also implying the Stanford D School principles as well with that. I've had a lot of success with implementing their first phase is empathy. We were studying Africa, and we're talking about how students can't do homework after a certain time period because they don't have a light. Well, there was a girl on Fallon that came up with that handheld flashlight for her friend in the Philippines. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's from a while back. I think she almost won the Google Prize. And just kind of like having the kid, that's ultimately what I want my kids to do is see a problem out there in the world and go after it. They're 5th and 6th graders. They don't quite think that way yet. But planting those seeds in them will help them, I think, in the long run, get to that kind of purpose. If it's 10 years down the line, they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Mr. Phillip talked about this quite a bit. I'm sure they won't remember who I am, but, it's kind of things like that. I don't think, it'll be like a traditional history classroom. I think it will just kind of be like a flex schedule, open period where you can come and meet with advisors and different people, and, the teachers or facilitators open up these questions for the kids to look at, and they kind of just choose their own path. Do all of our kids need to know about ancient Mesopotamia? Do all of our kids need to know about colonization in Asia? I can't answer that. I'm too low on the totem pole for that question. But I think
I can answer that. They don't all need to know that. No. And I'm on the same rung of the totem pole as you are. Sorry, I interrupted you though.
No, that's right. So it's just it's I try to give my kids as much freedom as I possibly can as fifth and sixth graders. I teach them how to search the internet correctly. I start them off in a walled garden, and then we branch out from there using Google's. I call them hacks. They have like scripts and different things like that they use, so that they can actually go and find things. Carl, you're a world history teacher. Whenever my kids write about another area, they have to find a website from that area. So if we're talking about Chinese history, they have to find websites about Chinese climate change and what they talk about there, the Steele, Allen, November stuff there. So.
That's pretty good. Do you feel like, this is just me, maybe, do you feel like with all the emphasis on standardized testing, do you feel like, I mean, I've been teaching since '93, you feel like social studies and history have kind of like been pushed to the back of the line a little bit with all the focus on like math, language, arts, and science?
Oh, I completely agree with that. However, I understand, we need to have strong science, math, and English grades, things like that. But you also have to understand, the world cultures that you're going to be dealing with. If you're not taught that, then how are you going to be able to kind of make an impact on society? Is my point.
John, I'm going to tie back what I just said about not everybody needs to know the same thing to what you just said. That is the exact reason why this is the perfect time to be a history teacher. People could care less about kids knowing things, and that means that I can tell kids, you don't need to know this. You're interested in this aspect of the unit, you're going to go be an expert on that, and the rest of this is just going to be a whole, and I'm going to trust that you can find that information if you need it later in your life. But I think that that's actually the most compelling reason to, well, okay, that's a lie, but I think that's one of the most compelling reasons to be a history teacher right now, is because it's a subject people don't care about, and that means that in my classroom I have absolute freedom to almost do whatever I want, as long as kids are, it looks like they're learning and they're happy with what's going on. I have a lot of freedom, and I think that is really, really rare in this culture of high stakes testing that we have right now.
Okay, I think I totally understand what you're saying. You're not talking like bad teacher freedom, though, where you're just showing movies and then Cameron Diaz is falling asleep in class kind of freedom, though, right?
No, absolutely not. It's we're gonna not have tests anymore because you don't have to know all this stuff, and you're gonna find the things that interest you and run with them and produce things and not be worried about consuming things and memorizing dates and whatnot.
I'm interested. Fidej, do you think that as we get the echo now, do you think that that social studies has like gone down the totem pole a little bit for things to learn? Do you feel like that's true?
Yeah, totally.
Or is that just me?
I mean, I'll tell you that when I was teaching second grade, I'm like, I can't handle teaching science and social studies, so I taught social studies, and my partner teachers taught science. And just with the prep piece alone, and it was no big deal to me if we decided to do something else and I didn't teach social studies. And I think that, we do a science test that's in addition to the regular math and language arts, but that's such a good point that I hadn't really thought about. I think we're going to see a shift in that. I think we're going to see students doing lots of reading, and we're on topics that are social studies and science-based, as it should be, which is going to be great. So I think that some of that nonfiction reading is going to help out, and I'm happy to see some of our teams are already talking about stopping the whole, we're going to do that switch for separate subjects, and you're going to see science and social studies integrated in language arts a lot more, I think, which is great. So
I think that's interesting too. When we were switching in Texas and we were in fourth grade, I would teach the science and the math, and they would go across the hall and they would do the social studies and the language arts together because they could blend it together a lot better, right. And that seemed to be kind of the pattern. And
and it's interesting too, because at Q Rockstar this weekend I was talking with my good friend Jenny Derby so she teaches language arts and social studies. She's a sixth grade teacher, and so the first day was focused on STEAM, and she's like, well, she was looking at a lot of the sessions, and it was very specific to, great math tools for this, that, and the other, which were awesome sessions, but she's like, oh, great, that's kind of ridiculous that doesn't even pertain to me. She was able to find some sessions that would go across anything, but, I mean, that was a great point that I hadn't even thought about. Like, the people that you're leaving out, and we're so departmentalized like that, got to change.
I went to Camp Chromebook on Valentine's Day, which I've also dubbed Camp Marriage Counseling because you're gone at professional development all day on Valentine's Day. But
Ditto.
I was wondering if George has heard of this game, and it was brought to my attention by the lovely and talented Ted Rosisi. And that's the gong is now for humble brags, by the way, or like products. Like I don't know, we were gonging all over the place last night on the other podcast. But so there was this fantasy, and it was created by a teacher in Minnesota. So I'm maybe you've heard of this, George, where it's a fantasy news game where you would pick two countries and you get points based on how much they're in the news, and it goes back and links to all these articles, and all he asked for, I signed up for it, all he asked for is like $1 donation, but you can donate as much as you want. So if you're Ted Rosisi and you've got this, then she donates more than I do, but I donated my $1, and it was really cool, and we held a fantasy draft right there. So it's like a fantasy social studies game. It looked awesome. I'll have to look up and see. Have you guys heard of this?
Well, it's funny. I talked to Ted Rosisi today, and she mentioned it as well. But it's fantasygeopolitics.com.
There you go. Thank you.
I've heard of that one. Yeah, I've never used it. I've heard of it. I wonder if that's Michael.
I want us to play. You know what we should do afterwards? Since I got an account too, maybe the four of us should sit there and we should have a fantasy geopolitics draft. And go for it. I mean, it looked totally fun, and I made Ted Rosisi make a draft right there for anybody that wanted to try it. It looked awesome. I thought it was cool. I said, Camp Chromebook, if you would have told, I tweeted at Kurt Reeves, and I said, if you would have told me that I would have started a fantasy league with Allison Anderson at Camp Chromebook, I would have said the odds of that were slim to none. And Slim just left the building, but that's what happened. So, fantasy geopolitics. I think we should try that out. You guys down for that?
I'm down for anything, John.
Okay, you are.
I mean, it's a little bit much for me right now because I'm in my fantasy league for The Bachelor. So to add one more fantasy league is just a little.
Yeah, Allison would join you on that one for sure. A little bit
on overload, but for you, I'm willing to try anything.
Okay, I think George
watches The Bachelor too.
You just pick two countries, so it won't be much of a time commitment. You can trade them back in. Yeah.
Exciting.
Take us 5 minutes. All right, that sounds good. George, all right, so we had a question from the audience earlier, and I saw it come across my feed. So you're in South Bend, and inquiring minds want to know, and by that I mean Lead Ed Tech, are you a Notre Dame fan?
In terms of their academics or sports?
In terms of their sports.
I am not, although we have a lot of our faculties, a lot of Notre Dame's faculty's students go to our school, so we... that's another way that we tap into, applying different areas for our kids. So. Okay,
but so for the record right now.
No, I am not a fan of Notre Dame sports.
Allison and I thank you for that.
I was born in Michigan, so I bleed maize and blue, although I have an Oregon sweatshirt on right now.
That's right.
I was about to say, there's a duck sweatshirt on your chest right now. It doesn't look very maize and blue.
No. It's underneath. It's like 1 degree here right now, and I swear I'm getting a sinus infection, so I've got like 20 layers of clothing on right now because I can't keep warm.
You should come to California to visit us. We have some highs of 72 this week.
Well, this is probably my last year going to ISTE so that I can go to Q Rockstars and things of that nature.
Yes, that's awesome.
Well, when are you going to come up to PDX? That's what we want you to do.
I can come on up.
Okay, come up to PDX. You better get on that right now because it's sold out for this year, right, Carl? And I bet next year it's already they're already selling tickets for it. I bet right now, so we got to get in early on PDX for next year.
All right.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Carl.
No, go.
I'm just excited because Lisa Highfield's in a fantasy league for geography. Possibly, we need to get her in on this new one.
Oh, okay.
I see Anne there. She's ready to play too. So let's get crazy.
All right, that sounds good. Carl, go ahead. Give us your last words.
No, it's actually I got one more question for George. George, before you go, what book are you reading right now, or what's the last book that you read, and what was your takeaway from it?
Well, I just finished my master's in December, so I haven't really dove into any books.
We talked about
Congratulations.
That. Thank you. Well, I'm looking at a lot of how to integrate design school principals into my classroom, so I'm picking up any PDFs and books and things like that they have. Come to find out, at a conference just really quickly that I was at in November down in Indianapolis, the K-12 lab was there from the D school, and the woman who runs it, Susie Weiss, is actually an alum of Stanley Clark.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so she's like, the whole reason I went to here was because of what I learned at Stanley Clark. I'm like, well, I don't see what you're doing now at Stanley Clark too much, so let's integrate that in again.
Yeah. I read sometime before winter break, and I know Kurt Reese is big on this book, the Whisk Principle.
That's a plug for Kurt Reese right there.
Creative Confidence by David and Tom Kelly. It was an excellent read, and definitely about some of the design thinking principles that you're talking about. So
yeah, I've got their Make book. Make space to look at the different ways that they utilize space in the classroom, because I want to get away from my desks and just make a classroom that's open and so the kids can move around and things of that nature. I'm taking out a bunch of storage so that we have more wall space for the kids to display their work. And
just take the desks out. I'm serious.
I'm almost there.
I did that with a teacher last December, and it's so crazy what just freeing up that space does. I was taking some people in that classroom the other day, and they're like, "Wow, this room is huge." I'm like, "Nope, it's the same as all the other rooms we've been in. Just take them out and see what happens."
There we go. Fidesz, you're a cool principal.
I don't know.
Well, that's a cool attitude to have. Carl, before we go then, since we're talking about the D School a little bit, is there any news on the Ed Camp D School that's going on? Are you able to talk about it? I know it's been in the works. Any news on it at all, or no?
None that unfortunately not. We ran into some roadblocks with it in September, and I think it's one of those things where we had a lot of momentum going, and then all the folks that were organizing it are all doing a lot of other things. So it's something that I would love to take another swing at, and maybe it's something we could put together for next fall. I'm not sure it's something we could get off the ground between now and the end of the school year. But yeah, it's we put a lot of time into trying to meld those two models, the EdCamp model and design thinking, and I think it would have been really neat. So we put in too many hours to not make it happen. But we. Thank you for the reminder. Keep asking me.
That's what I would come down there for, and it's like it's on ice right now. Then, huh? Do we need to get Moss Pike involved? He is involved, right?
Would be on it. No, not yet. Well, I mean, it's mostly just Bay Area folks. But he and I had some conversations about it, and I think he would be all over lending some critical oversight of our ideas.
All right, well, that's good. Well, I will keep reminding you because I thought that was a great idea, and it's still a great idea. You just have to get it done. Get her done.
Right.
Exactly. George, thank you for being on here. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate you staying up so late on the East Coast. You're our first East Coast guest at the New Times, so thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. That's my pleasure. I usually go to bed around 2 anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, my gosh.
That's why you have a freaking sinus infection.
That's probably why.
Right. Take some vitamin C and go to sleep, man.
Oh, I think I've drinking 6 things of orange juice already today.
Oh.
That doesn't. I don't know. That's where the Midwest. I mean, Carl and I love the Midwest, but I'm glad I'm not there right now.
Yeah. Just be glad you're not in Boston.
Yes.
So my sister lives in Boston and is coming to San Francisco on Thursday and is more than a little bit excited about it.
I bet she is.
I had a friend, she's retired now, but she flew out of Baltimore just to get out of the snow. She's just like, I'm leaving for the weekend, and flew down to Florida.
Yeah.
Nice. Amy Fidesz, do you have any last words before we stop the broadcast?
No, I just am super glad that I decided to crash the party tonight. Thanks. It was fun to learn from you, George, and just a good reminder for, I think that social studies really falls on the back burner, so it's a good topic for me to kind of keep at the forefront. So thanks for letting me be a part of the combo.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being on here.
Yeah, we need to have good guys like you and Carl keeping the torch lit. Then that's what you guys do. You just keep banging the drum. Oh wait, we've got a banging drum sound effect.
Yeah.
Keep banging the drum, the social studies drum.
Well, we used to do Google Hangouts with other history teachers, but that kind of fell by the wayside.
But I actually had
Get
a
it going.
had a conversation with David Fauch about that tonight. We may be trying to resurrect them.
That's cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll catch you on the flip side.